Hello, I'm Sunny. I am an actor on General Hospital, and many people really love both me and our General Hospital drama. So I've come here to share updates about my beloved General Hospital. Everyone, please subscribe and support me. If you do, I will keep coming every day with new updates for you. General Hospital spoilers reveal that a dangerous storm is quietly building beneath the surface, and before long, Trina Robinson and Kai Taylor may find themselves standing at the center of a nightmare they never expected. What begins as a desperate attempt to save a helpless man could quickly spiral into a catastrophe that changes multiple lives forever. Every decision now carries enormous consequences. Every secret threatens to explode into the open, and every passing moment gives danger another opportunity to tighten its grip. The walls are slowly closing in around Drew Kane, while those who desperately want to help him may unknowingly be walking straight into a deadly trap. In true General Hospital fashion, the tension continues to build with each passing scene, leaving viewers wondering who will emerge as the victim when everything finally falls apart. The warning signs first became impossible to ignore during the Tuesday, July 14th episode, when Drew refused to surrender to the prison his own body had become. Trapped inside his locked-in state and unable to communicate normally, Drew realized that if he didn't act now, he might never have another opportunity to reach someone willing to listen. Fate unexpectedly handed him that chance when Kai Taylor arrived at the house, simply believing he was there to collect notes from Willow Kane as part of his internship. What should have been an ordinary visit suddenly transformed into a life-changing encounter as Drew summoned every ounce of strength remaining inside him. With tremendous effort, he managed to throw a medical bag toward Kai, a desperate act that spoke louder than any words ever could. It wasn't simply an object being tossed across the room. It was a cry for help from a man who feared he was running out of time. Kai stood frozen in disbelief as he watched what had just happened unfold before his eyes. Until that moment, everyone had believed Drew was almost completely trapped inside his own body, unable to communicate or move in any meaningful way. Yet here he was, demonstrating far more mobility than anyone could have imagined. The realization immediately filled Kai with hope, confusion, and suspicion all at once. His first instinct was to tell Willow what he had witnessed, believing she would want to know that Drew was making remarkable progress. But the moment he suggested informing her, Drew's response changed everything. With remarkable determination, Drew blinked a clear and unmistakable no, silently begging Kai not to trust the woman standing only steps away. In that single silent exchange, Kai finally understood what Drew had been trying to tell him all along. He didn't need spoken words to recognize the fear in Drew's eyes or the urgency behind his desperate warning. Every instinct inside him suddenly screamed that something was terribly wrong inside that house. Rather than exposing Drew's secret, Kai quickly gathered himself and politely thanked Willow for the notes she had provided before making a calm but swift exit. On the outside, he appeared perfectly composed, giving Willow no obvious reason to suspect that anything unusual had occurred. Inside, however, his thoughts were racing as the horrifying pieces of the puzzle began fitting together with alarming speed. Kai already knew one devastating truth that few others fully understood. Willow was the person responsible for shooting Drew. Ever since that shocking incident, he had quietly carried growing suspicions that her actions extended far beyond a single violent confrontation. The more he observed the situation, the more convinced he became that Willow herself was somehow responsible for Drew's mysterious locked-in condition. Every interaction, every nervous glance, and every strange explanation only reinforced his growing belief that Drew wasn't simply recovering from an injury. He was being trapped, controlled, and silenced by the very woman who claimed to be caring for him. Leaving the house without revealing what he knew suddenly became more than caution. It became survival. Unfortunately for Kai, Willow proved to be every bit as observant as she was dangerous. The instant the front door closed behind him, she sensed that something had happened between Drew and her visitor. She recognized the subtle change in Drew's expression and immediately realized that he had somehow managed to communicate despite his physical limitations. Fury erupted almost instantly as she turned her attention toward her helpless husband. Whatever silent message Drew had managed to deliver had clearly slipped beyond her control, and that possibility terrified her far more than she was willing to admit. The carefully constructed prison she had built around him was beginning to crack, and Willow understood that once the truth started escaping, it might become impossible to stop. Despite everything she has done, Willow continues telling herself that she doesn't actually want Drew to remain trapped forever. Deep down, her plan has always been to release him eventually, but only after she secures enough incriminating evidence to guarantee that he can never expose her crimes. She believes that if she gathers enough leverage over Drew, she can force him into permanent silence without having to resort to the most irreversible solution imaginable. Every move she makes is driven by one overwhelming obsession that eclipses every other moral boundary she once possessed. Above all else, Willow is desperate to keep custody of her children, and protecting that future has become the justification for every horrifying decision she continues making. As longtime viewers already know, when Willow believes her family is at risk, there are very few lines she refuses to cross. Yet even as she desperately searches for another way, darker possibilities continue creeping into her mind with frightening persistence. The idea of permanently eliminating Drew is one she repeatedly tries to push away, only for it to return stronger each time another obstacle appears. Making matters even worse, she has not been left alone with these terrifying thoughts. Jack Brennan and Jen Sidwell have each reinforced the same chilling conclusion, suggesting that removing Drew permanently may be the only foolproof way to ensure the truth never reaches the outside world. Their words have planted dangerous seeds inside Willow's already fragile state of mind, convincing her that silence can only be guaranteed if Drew never speaks again. With every passing day, the emotional and psychological pressure surrounding Willow grows heavier, making it increasingly difficult to predict what desperate choice she might ultimately make. Outside the walls of that increasingly dangerous house, another story is quietly beginning to unfold. It seems almost inevitable that Kai will soon confide everything he witnessed to Trina Robinson. He knows he cannot carry this terrifying burden alone, especially after realizing that Drew intentionally reached out to him instead of anyone else. Once Trina hears the full story, the pieces will begin falling into place for her as well, revealing just how much danger Drew may truly be facing. Together, they will likely reach the same heartbreaking conclusion, that time is running out, and if someone doesn't intervene soon, Drew may never escape Willow's control. Trina's involvement adds another powerful emotional layer to the unfolding crisis because her relationship with Drew has never been simple. There is certainly no love lost between them after Drew's manipulative actions contributed to the painful collapse of her parents' marriage, leaving wounds that have never fully healed. Those memories still linger, making it impossible for Trina to forget the pain his choices caused her family. Yet beneath that justified resentment lies the compassionate heart viewers have always admired. Trina is not someone who can stand by and watch another human being suffer, even someone responsible for tremendous heartbreak. Faced with a helpless victim desperately reaching out for salvation, her conscience may simply refuse to let her walk away. As Kai and Trina begin connecting the frightening clues, the possibility of mounting a rescue mission grows stronger with every passing moment. They may convince themselves that no one else understands the full truth, leaving them as Drew's only realistic hope. The decision will undoubtedly come from courage and compassion, but noble intentions rarely guarantee safe outcomes in Port Charles. Sneaking into Willow and Drew's home may sound straightforward in theory, yet nothing about this situation is simple anymore. Every hallway, every closed door, and every unexpected sound could hide a disaster waiting to unfold. Instead of becoming heroes, Kai and Trina may unknowingly place themselves directly in the crosshairs of unimaginable danger. And this is where General Hospital's signature unpredictability begins casting an even darker shadow over the story. What if Trina and Kai choose the worst possible moment to enter the house? What if, just as they arrive, Willow has reached her breaking point and is standing over Drew with a gun in her trembling hands? The horrifying possibility immediately echoes memories of Drew's previous shooting, raising the terrifying prospect of a devastating Drew shooting 2.0 unfolding before viewers' eyes. If Kai instinctively rushes forward to protect Drew, he could easily become the one standing in the bullet's path, sacrificing himself in a split second that changes countless lives forever. A rescue mission fueled by hope could transform into unimaginable heartbreak in the blink of an eye. Yet, even if no gunshot rings out, the danger is far from over. Willow has repeatedly demonstrated that she can think quickly under pressure, and she may ultimately gain the upper hand by catching Trina and Kai inside the house before they can free Drew. From there, she could effortlessly twist the narrative to her advantage, claiming that the two university students were attempting to kidnap her vulnerable husband from his own home. Considering Willow's public position as a respected congresswoman, her version of events could carry enormous weight with law enforcement. Authorities might naturally believe an elected official over two frightened young adults who suddenly find themselves unable to explain the impossible truth. In a single devastating moment, the rescuers could become the accused, while the true villain successfully portrays herself as the victim. No matter which direction the story ultimately takes, every road appears to lead toward disaster. Whether bullets begin flying, shocking accusations are made, or carefully buried secrets finally explode into public view, Kai and Trina's plan seems destined to unleash consequences far beyond anything they anticipate. Their courage may be admirable, but courage alone cannot protect them from the dangerous web of deception that Willow has spent so much time weaving. As emotions intensify and every character edges closer to an irreversible decision, the suspense reaches an almost unbearable level. General Hospital spoilers strongly suggest that this rescue mission could become one of the soap's most explosive turning points, leaving fans anxiously waiting to discover who survives, who falls, and what devastating truth will finally emerge once the dust settles. As the emotional pressure continues to mount, every passing hour brings Drew Kane closer to a fate that grows more uncertain by the minute. Locked inside his own body, he remains painfully aware of everything happening around him, yet he has almost no ability to defend himself or expose the truth that threatens to consume everyone involved. His desperate effort to reach Kai was more than a fleeting moment of hope. It was the first crack in the carefully controlled prison Willow has built around him. Now that someone outside those walls understands his silent plea, the balance of power has begun to shift ever so slightly. But in Port Charles, hope rarely arrives without demanding a painful price, and the smallest spark of optimism often ignites the largest disasters. As Drew waits helplessly, unable to influence the events racing toward him, fate seems determined to force every player onto a collision course that could leave none of them unchanged. Kai carries an enormous burden as he walks away from the house, replaying every second of that disturbing visit over and over in his mind. Drew's desperate warning refuses to leave him, and the fear he witnessed in the congressman's eyes continues to haunt him long after he is gone. The more Kai reflects on Willow's strange behavior, the more convinced he becomes that Drew wasn't asking for secrecy out of confusion or paranoia. He was trying to protect himself from the very person the world believes is caring for him. Every suspicious glance, every carefully chosen word, and every unsettling silence now seems to point toward the same terrifying conclusion. Kai realizes that remaining silent could ultimately make him an unwilling accomplice to whatever tragedy unfolds next, and that realization alone may push him toward taking action far sooner than anyone expects. It is only natural that his thoughts will eventually lead him to Trina Robinson, someone whose compassion and unwavering sense of justice have never allowed her to ignore another person's suffering. Although Drew's past actions caused deep emotional wounds by contributing to the destruction of her parents' marriage, Trina has never allowed bitterness to completely define her character. She understands the pain of betrayal, but she also understands the value of doing what is right, even when it means helping someone who once hurt her family. Once Kai reveals everything he witnessed inside that house, the medical bag, Drew's incredible effort to move, and that unmistakable blink pleading for silence, Trina will likely realize that this situation is far more dangerous than anyone previously imagined. What once seemed like a tragic medical condition suddenly transforms into what appears to be a desperate cry for rescue. Faced with that horrifying possibility, turning away simply may not be an option either of them can live with. As the two young friends begin piecing together the evidence, their determination could quickly outweigh their caution. They may convince themselves that waiting for someone else to intervene is simply too great a risk, especially when Drew's life appears to be hanging by a thread. Every minute they hesitate could be another minute Willow spends tightening her grip over the helpless man trapped inside his own body. Their plan may seem straightforward in the beginning: slip quietly into the house, remove Drew from danger, and finally get him somewhere safe where he can receive real help. Yet the simplicity of that idea is exactly what makes it so dangerous. Port Charles has never been kind to those who underestimate the chaos hiding behind closed doors, and history has repeatedly shown that the most well-intentioned rescue missions often unravel with devastating speed. Meanwhile, Willow herself continues fighting an increasingly brutal battle within her own mind. She desperately clings to the belief that there is still a way to protect her future without crossing the final moral line, but every possible solution seems to collapse under the weight of her own secrets. Her obsession with keeping custody of her children continues to consume every thought she has, convincing her that exposure would cost her everything she loves. The pressure surrounding her grows heavier with every passing day, especially after hearing voices like Jack Brennan and Jen Sidwell reinforce the frightening idea that Drew can never be allowed to tell the truth. Those chilling suggestions continue echoing inside her mind, making the unthinkable seem just a little more reasonable each time she considers her shrinking list of options. Even if she still resists that terrifying conclusion, the possibility refuses to disappear, hanging over every decision like a dark cloud waiting to unleash its storm. That emotional instability is precisely what makes the coming confrontation so frightening to imagine. If Trina and Kai choose the wrong moment to enter the house, they could unknowingly interrupt Willow at the exact instant her fear reaches its breaking point. A woman cornered by her own lies is capable of making reckless decisions, especially when she believes everything she has fought to protect is about to disappear forever. The atmosphere inside that home could transform from quiet tension into absolute chaos in the span of a single heartbeat. Every sound, every unexpected movement, and every desperate reaction could trigger consequences that none of them are prepared to face. What begins as a rescue could instantly become a desperate fight for survival. One especially haunting possibility continues casting a long shadow over everything that lies ahead. Viewers cannot help wondering whether history is preparing to repeat itself with another shocking act of gun violence. If Willow finds herself pointing a weapon at Drew in one final attempt to silence him forever, the arrival of unexpected visitors could send the entire situation spiraling out of control. Kai's natural instinct would almost certainly be to protect Drew without thinking about his own safety, rushing into danger before considering the consequences. In that terrifying split second, the bullet intended for Drew could instead strike Kai, transforming an act of courage into heartbreaking tragedy. Such a devastating twist would not only shatter Trina's world, but would also send emotional shockwaves throughout Port Charles, proving once again that heroism often comes at an unimaginable cost. Yet the danger extends far beyond physical violence alone. Willow has repeatedly demonstrated that she possesses the intelligence and composure to manipulate almost any situation in her favor, especially when she has only seconds to react. If she catches Trina and Kai attempting to remove Drew from the house, she may immediately seize control of the narrative before they have any chance to explain themselves. Instead of appearing as frightened young people trying to save a helpless man, they could suddenly look like criminals attempting to abduct a vulnerable patient. Given Willow's position as a respected congresswoman, her words naturally carry authority and credibility that few would immediately question. To outside observers, and especially to law enforcement, the situation could appear painfully simple, with Willow presenting herself as the protective wife while Trina and Kai become the obvious suspects. That possibility creates an entirely different kind of nightmare, one built not on bullets but on false accusations and shattered reputations. Imagine the devastating irony if the very people risking everything to save Drew are the ones placed in handcuffs while the true architect of the crisis walks away looking completely innocent. Their compassion could be twisted into evidence against them, their bravery misrepresented as criminal intent, and their desperate attempt to rescue a victim transformed into the scandal of an alleged kidnapping. Such a reversal would perfectly capture the unpredictable storytelling that has made General Hospital famous for decades. In Port Charles, appearances are often deceiving, and justice rarely arrives before innocent lives have already been turned upside down. No matter how the story ultimately unfolds, one thing has become increasingly clear. The path ahead is lined with heartbreak, impossible choices, and consequences that will echo far beyond this single crisis. Drew's silent plea has already set powerful events into motion, Kai's growing suspicions have opened a dangerous door that can no longer be closed, and Trina's compassionate heart may soon pull her directly into the center of a battle she never asked to fight. At the same time, Willow's desperation continues pushing her closer to decisions that could permanently define her future, while every secret she desperately protects threatens to explode with unstoppable force. Whether the coming days bring another shocking shooting, a failed rescue, devastating legal consequences, or an entirely unexpected twist worthy of General Hospital's legendary reputation, the stakes have never been higher. Fans should prepare themselves for an emotional roller coaster because all signs point toward Trina and Kai's attempt to save Drew becoming a mission that could end in heartbreak, sacrifice, and life-changing consequences for everyone caught in its path.